I apologize if I sound weird or start to sound weird because I just sneezed a whole bunch of times. I have this like thing. I don't know if I ever told you guys this, but I either sneeze 3 times or like 30.
Oh, I think I remember once maybe talking about this.
Man, like the other night, I was holding one of my cats. That's what it was. I got some cat hair up in my nose and easily 25 sneezes. Just, I mean, in about a minute. Like it's just one after another, and it's a terrible feeling. So, if I sound bad, I apologize. That's why. I'm just sneezy. How are you guys?
Good morning.
Good morning.
What were you sneezing from this morning?
I don't know. Breathing? I'm not really sure. Just started sneezing. Yeah, it was the 3 variety, so it wasn't terrible.
Yeah. Okay. I was just doing a general health check here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just sneeze sometimes. I'm not sure.
I got a little bit of a cold this morning. I started with 2 days ago, and I thought it was gone, but now it's back a little bit. So I'm a little bit nasally myself. So I apologize in advance.
It's okay. We still love you.
So I'm going to be muting a lot just to blow my nose and stuff. I must say that watching the clips are interesting. The clips that came up this week, a lot of people love the clips of me talking about my dad, which was great. Sometimes I see those clips and I want to throw my phone in the toilet. But it wasn't this week.
Why is that?
I don't know. I forget half the things I say on here, and I watch. I'm like, did I just say that? Oh my god.
Oh man, I forget 100% of the things I say on here. People will send us messages, and like, I'm like, what? I don't. Oh yeah.
And so not only am I reminded of them, I get to see myself with sleepy eyes talking about them in my groggy voice. No, but they're really nice, and I got lots of compliments about the things we talked about my dad. So it was really sweet. So it's just a general thank you to everybody that's sent beautiful, kind messages, and a lot of the fans knew my dad personally, so they shared stories of when they met him that I didn't even know, which was really nice. My dad would bump into fans all the time on Long Island, and they would not recognize him and talk to him. So that's really sweet. So thank you for that. And for those that are curious, the ceremony's on December 8th, which would be today. Towers Funeral Parlor is going to be 2 viewings in the afternoon and then in the evening. And then tomorrow we have a family thing. So it's basically tomorrow, meaning the Saturday after. But that's it. And the reason a lot of people went to the Towers Funeral Parlor last Friday, thinking the timing would have been exactly 1 week later. But it was logistics with my brother and his kids from California. And that's really what it was all about, logistics. And when everybody can get it together to come at the same time. And that's why.
Gotcha.
But besides that, I had a pretty busy week, even though I haven't been doing too much social media. I got the other night, I was making a part for one of the bells that I made. And I did a long little story about how to make the toggle at the top that would hold the shackle. So I did a long story on that. That was fun. Remember, like 3 years ago, I said I want to make a bell? Mm-hmm. Well, now I've made 3 in various states of looking good. One being horrible, and one being pretty okay. One in the middle being a lot of pop marks and stuff. I haven't been showing them off too much. Well, I showed the ones off just a couple of days ago because they didn't have the inscription in them. They get an inscription in them, which is for a ceremony that takes place next week. And last night I had it in the etch, and I pulled it out of the etch, and it was nearly perfect except for one letter had a leak under it. So when the etch gets under the letters, it etches everything it touches. So the letter, the date is on it. So the 3 and the 23 has like a big pock mark on it, but it looks like something that was recovered from the ocean. That's really, what can you do? That's the bell is about a ceremony that has something to do with the ocean. So I'm not getting paid for it. It was really just me volunteering my time. And so the one that I showed my friend who requested I make it, he's like, see if you can get it better. And so that's when I started Monday morning by casting a whole new one, polishing it that day, and etching it last night. So in 2 days, I did what it took me weeks to do, because then the most important lesson in all of it is having fumbled my way through all of it, now having the tech to be able to go, okay, today I'm going to make a bell. And I did it. Whereas 3 years ago, I said, I want to make a bell. And I had no idea where to go with it. I was super nervous. And I say it all the time. If you're not jumping into a project there's something unconsciously that you're afraid of. Most often it's unconscious. Sometimes it's very conscious. But there's something in the process that's scaring you. And there was a lot to this process that was scaring me. Even right up until Monday morning when I had the mold ready, I made the mold out of Petrobond and packed the mold, flipped it over. I was all working alone because there was nobody around. And the mold gets heavier and heavier. And this mold might be 60, 70 pounds of sand in this big, huge box that's like at least 1 foot in each direction. And flipping it over and hoping the mold doesn't collapse inside because there's a big cavity in there. Getting it ready and then melting the bronze. And then Mike, my guy who's working on my barn, my neighbor, Mike drove by the barn because he was working at the back barn. So I said, Mike, you got about an hour? He's like, yeah, why? What's up? I was like, can you help me pour this bell? He's like, yeah, sure. So he got all excited to help me. And he had a little bit of experience doing on a smaller scale. So he was always very helpful. He's a great guy. And so Mike hung out with me. And I was thinking in my head, like, how can I pour about 20 pounds of bronze alone? It's usually a 2-man operation. I'm like weighing it out, thinking about, and then he showed up. So that was fun that he helped me. And, so there it is. So the long and short of it is gathering information, gathering knowledge is just, it's incredible when you have it. And it's scary when you don't. And sometimes you know what you know, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And if there's usually a hiccup in a system, it's usually because you're just not confronting the whole picture. It happens to me all the time.
Well, it's interesting because like I know you do some things multiple times, but like most of us, a lot of the things you do them one time, and then maybe you won't do it again for multiple years or whatever. But this one, you've been like incrementing on a little bit, and you've been able to like solve and then immediately go back or pretty closly go back and do it again. And that's a big benefit that I guess none of us really get very often with what we do.
Well, you know what it is. To be perfectly honest, I was challenged by my buddy Mike, who for lack of a better term, he ordered this for the ceremony. And I said, okay, cool. I'd been wanting to do it. This will be a perfect excuse to do it. It's somewhat of a prestigious event. It's a historical event that we're going to be involved in. And he invited me to come to the event. And I'm going to be the guy that's going to have to explain the pockmark on the number 3 to every single person that walks up and is like, wow, you made this bell. I'm like, yeah, but see, the number 3 is really, it's like, and they're like, no, it looks great. I'm going to forget every other thing I did except for the little pockmark on the number 3. Explain it to 400 people in 2 weeks.
You shouldn't even be mentioning it here.
I know. No, well, that's, you know how it is. It's like, you do like a beautiful inlay. You're like, this one piece didn't fit perfect, so I had to fill it with resin. Like, that's great. I didn't even notice that till now that you pointed out. That's all I say. Being pushed against the wall got my fire going, whereas I would have been like, I'll do that one day when the mysterious hiccup figures itself out, which it never would have.
Right. Yeah.
Because I didn't challenge myself. So I learned 3 processes in doing this. The old traditional method of the sand one is the one that ultimately, for me, was successful. The first one was a failure. I was trying to cast the bell with all the inscriptions raised on it, and that didn't work. I was trying to do a full-on lost wax technique, like a proper bronze cast. And the method I was using was for making jewelry, anything under like 1 pound. And here I'm trying to cast something that's like 15 pounds. So the mold kept breaking, and the melted bronze would pour out of the cracks. In fact, we were mixing up we were melting the bronze, and Mike was helping me at the time, my friend Mike, who ordered the bell. He goes, you think we have to worry about those cracks? I go, it'll be fine. It'll probably cool off right when it hits those cracks and seal up. We poured in like 15 pounds of bronze, just seeped through a tiny little crack. It just made a huge puddle, just like it came right out like oil, and like just started a fire on the grass. And like, I guess the crack is really important to close up, I guess. So that was a failure. But then the third process, so that was a big chunk of plaster with a negative in it that I baked out in the kiln. But the proper way to do bronze casting is to take a wax figure or whatever it is with all the sprues on it for casting and the cup at the top, and dip it into a slurry and create a ceramic shell around the whole thing, so that when you finally bake it, you have let's say it's the shape of a snowman. So when you're done, you basically have the shape of a snowman. The mold looks like the shape of a snowman, but it's a 1/4 inch thicker. It's like a coffee cup. Once it's all baked and all the wax is baked out, now that is a proper mold for bronze casting. And then once the bronze cures, once you pour it in and it cures, you just chip it off with a chipping hammer. Oh. And then that's the proper way. So I'm getting a 5-gallon bucket of the 2-step process, 2 5-gallon buckets of the 2-step process to make those type of molds. So now it's pushing me in a whole new direction, which I didn't expect to go in. I didn't think I could properly do that with my facility here. And after looking online and seeing some other people doing these small scale ceramic castings, I was like, there's no way I shouldn't be able to do that. And so I ordered up.
Are you doing that for the bell or for just something?
I will try it only because it's just like a challenge at this point. But it's not necessary. It's just really for anything else. I have other ideas I want to do.
Gotcha.
The first thing I do want to do is, years ago, somebody put out a thing called the No Lathe Pen Challenge. Everybody had to make a pen out of something with no lathe. And I made a little clay sculpture of a man that's standing with his arms out. Like it's like a little like molded. It almost looks like it's kind of stop animation. And I want to take the original casting I have of him, make him in wax, and do a couple of bronze castings of him. So that's going to be the first project. It's small. Obviously, it's the size of a pen with arms and legs. So that's a simple little casting that I could do without a 2-man pour, just a few ounces. So I'll probably experiment with that just to get my toes in the water there with that type of ceramic molding. And it's small enough it can go in the kiln easily. It's not a 2-man pick them up and drop them off. So I'm going to start with that. So I'll show all that process as I get into it. But I wouldn't have got into that. I wouldn't have opened that door if I didn't go down this route with the whole challenging myself on the bell. And I wouldn't have turned the corner if Mike didn't say, hey, can you make me a bell for this ceremony that's coming up, for this historic moment in time? I was like, wow, I'm honored you asked. I said, I don't think I could do that. He goes, yeah, you'll figure it out. I said, okay. And so here we are. And it's funny, I showed him bell number 2 the other day, and he goes, it's pretty good. He goes, make another one. And I was like, oh. Because now you know how to do
demanding
it.
Here.
He goes, you know how to do it. Now make another one. I was like, okay. And I have to hand them off to him. He's going to be at my dad's ceremony, so I have to hand them off to him then. And I was like, all right, I'll have it for Friday. And that's why I jumped right into it early this week. That's the story. I'll send you guys pictures of the inscription.
Awesome. David, what have you been up to?
I got a few things going on. I'm finishing up a video now of, it was supposed to be 10 Christmas gifts you can still make before Christmas. And it turns out it's a little hard to design and make 10 different things in 3 days. So it's probably going to be 7 or 8 things you can make. 10 just sounds better in a thumbnail, but it's funny, even if you're doing little crafty gift things, I always underestimate how long everything is going to take. And so that's the video we're finishing up this week. That'll be out this weekend. And then at the other house, I was going to start the bed for the bedroom that we're working on, but the bathroom renovation is going faster than expected. And the guy that's working on it has it down to the studs. And so I got to make the vanity for that. So I got to switch gears and make the vanity for that bathroom. And the floors in the house just got all refinished. And so I really couldn't go over there for like a week and a half while he was working on it. And then the smell of polyurethane was so bad, I couldn't stand being there for more than 10 minutes. And that's... and then so for that budget shop, I bought a bunch of tools. A couple months ago, I bought a bunch of cheap Amazon tools, and one of those tools was a Wen circular saw, and I was very surprised on how well built this cheap circular saw was. And it's one of the cheapest circular saws you can get on Amazon. And then some people left some comments saying Wen makes some really good stuff. You should look into more of the tools. Was it? I don't remember.
Like $30 or like 100?
No, it was more than that. But it was a corded one too. So,
right.
And a bunch of people were like, "Wen makes some really good budget friendly stuff. And so I went and I bought all the Wen tools, like table saw, planer, joiner, miter saw, a bunch of other things. And all of those are going into the budget shop, but I'm going to do a video kind of like reviewing all of them. And so that'll be kind of fun. I've got some good use with the table saw. For the Christmas gift stuff, I wanted to use some inexpensive tools just to kind of show that anybody could do this with a few basic tools. So I've been using the Wen table saw, and it's so weird coming from the big luxury saw stop table saw to working with a little contractor saw, which I don't have a lot of experience with. And it's really hard to get the fence in the perfect spot. And then when you're angling the blade, like the saw stop, you can just crank it until you get the perfect angle and then lock it down. With the contractor saw, you're physically moving this thing in a radius and then lock it down. And I got that little digital angle gauge on the blade, and it's so hard to get it right on the nose. And
the worst thing about them is that you're always pushing them around.
Yeah,
the material. You got to lock them into something or screw them to something. Yep. Otherwise, you push them and they just push away.
And the things that you don't think about, like the edges are sharp, and so like you nick your hand on something, and you're like, God, and the saw stop, everything is smoothed over. It's really is a luxury table saw. And then what were some of the other things? I was taking notes while working with it, but so that's what's going on. I'm going to review a bunch of cheap tools from the perspective of a very privileged fancy tool guy.
Interesting. So I have a question about the review thing, or your thoughts on this. So I was talking recently with somebody about review videos and how I feel like there's a place. I've never really done a review video. I mean, I put together a 3D printer like many years ago and kind of showed the process, but it wasn't really a review as much as just build process or something. But so I was talking about review videos and how I think there's potential for me to talk about certain tools that I'm using in like the review context, but it feels like doing what I see as reviews by other people wouldn't fit on the main channel. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but the thing I watched, that's the one.
That looks like it's the one, Jimmy.
So the thing that I see other people do as a review is not really what I would think would fit with us, but I feel like there's some value in me talking about the experience of using a thing. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what that looks like, whether it's just a straight, like, I'm going to review this object, or if it's, let's talk about these types of objects, and I'm going to happen to talk about this one in my context for it, or whatever. So Forby and I had a big conversation the other day about how that would work and where that would go, because my first tendency is like to protect our main channel and not do anything there that I absolutely know is not going to perform. I mean, a lot of stuff doesn't perform, but I think it might. But I don't want to put something there I know is not going to perform. But then his perspective was, well, make it in a way that is more intriguing to people and doesn't look like a straight, Object X review. Yeah. So what is how are you going to go about that? Like, if you have all these tools that are all the same color, they're all the same brand, and you're going to be like, here's what I think. How do you do that?
Well, I'm not really a review person either. I've done very little reviews on my channel over the last 10 years. And I'm not going to do a straight review. And I've got this series on my channel called I Bought, where I buy the cheapest tools on Amazon. I bought the cheapest tools on Temu, or I bought every Facebook ad, and they do well. And I think they do well because it's kind of a spectacle. Like, oh, this dude bought every single Facebook ad. So there's that hook with that. And so
over the top.
It's over the top, right? And we are in a position where we can do that. That's our unfair advantage, is because we,
right. Yeah.
you know, we'll get 100,000 views or more on these videos. We are making money. We're getting AdSense. We have that privilege of doing that. So we have that unfair advantage of being able to do that. So I'm taking that kind of approach with the Wend tool. I'm not making a video just on the table saw. I'm making a video on their entire product line. Nobody's done that. Anybody can buy a $150 table saw and make a review on it. So not many people can buy all of them. I'm talking like I'm so privileged, but I get that. But and so that's how I'm making it into a spectacle. There's I'm
picturing like cribs and all your tools like in your parking lot and in your curved driveway, and you're like walking up on them with a big
He's like laying in bed and his bed's covered in power tools.
But there's a purpose of me buying these cheap tools so they can all go into the budget. So they're actually serving a purpose, and not just like, I'm not just wasting money and then there's my own perspective on this, because I do have big tools. I normally work with big tools in a nice shop. This, a lot of times when you see a review on a product, it's coming from maybe somebody who is a little bit more budget friendly, or maybe it's somebody who, you know, if you're doing a review on a 3D printer and all you do is 3D printers, you're going to watch that review because that dude's an expert on that. Or we're all going to have our own unique perspective. Plus, the reason I would suggest putting it on the main channel is, and it gives me more time to work on the bigger projects. Sure. You know,
and that's part of my thinking too.
Yeah. A bathroom vanity is not something that I can just make in 2 days and then move on to the next thing. This bathroom vanity is going to take a week or two. And doing a simple video that I can shoot in an entire day gives me more time to work on the bigger projects. And I have found that project-based videos, people want to see bigger stuff and not the smaller stuff. So my little crafty things that I've done for 10 years, crafty projects don't work anymore. That's why I'm doing 10 of them for this Christmas video. It's more of a spectacle. And so you have an amazing, unique perspective. I would just use that for your reviews and maybe figure out a way where you're not calling it a review. You know, it's your take on something.
Yeah, the expectation that goes with that word is probably the thing that I internally want to push back on, you know, or I'm not comfortable with. So and
a review sounds boring. Like a review video is usually a utility. Like, I'm going to buy this tool. I'm going to find a review on it. I want to see how it works. And I don't want to make a boring video. I want to do something I'm excited about. So, you know, I try to find that angle that's going to work for me and also for my audience.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that this come up to me recently is because I got a couple of new 3D printers. I don't know, it's probably been 6 months ago or something. One of them I ordered like 2 years before that, and it finally showed up, and it's gigantic. It's like the biggest printer I have ever had by a large margin, and it's fantastic. Like, it works perfectly every single time. It's great. And so I really want to tell people about why I legitimately, like, I paid a lot of money for this printer, and I'm so glad that I did. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not like, let's see how far I can push this thing. It's like, wow, this thing blows me away. I want other people to know that it's worth the money. At the same time, I got a printer from a company that they reached out and they said, hey, can we send you this printer for you to try out? No expectation. You don't ever have to talk to us again. The end. Like, sure. I mean, I guess so. Because it was one I was curious about. It's also fantastic for an entirely different set of reasons. And so, you know, that got me thinking about, like, these are both good things that I acquired different ways for different reasons. And it feels like I should be telling somebody about my excitement about them rather than just like, I'm just going to hoard these printers and like hide them and do, you know, and like occasionally show them in a thing. And I think because I have these two machines that are excellent and do exactly what I want them to do. I've been printing stuff like crazy lately, and I don't show most of it because I needed Did I show you these trays before?
Oh
no,
those are cool.
So I started. This has been done. I didn't come up with this idea, but I wanted a tray. If you're watching the video, you can see this tray. It's just a really simple little plastic tray, right? And I found a model for one of these, and then I realized, oh, I wish it was a different size, but if I scale the whole thing, the proportions will be weird. So I just modeled one, and it's parametric in Fusion, so I want it to be 10 inches square, and it just scales up. Everything stays the same except for the bottom part, size. So I did that, and then I was like, if I can scale it correctly, easily with the parameters, then I should just be able to make them so that they nest. So I just changed the size, and now I have like nesting little trays that fit in that little groove, and they don't slide around. And then I started going, oh wait, if I could do that, then I could do this, and I could embed magnets, or I could make clips so that they lock together on the outside, and then I could make a desk organizer that goes right here in front of my keyboard, and I'm just like idea after idea after idea. Mm-hmm. And this is all off camera, not project work, but I'm using these printers, and it's so funny because I'm finally becoming the person that everybody thought I was in regard to 3D printers.
Right.
Everybody just assumes like, yeah, if you have a 3D printer, then you just 3D print everything. And I've always been so resistant to it. Like it needs to be used sparingly, or I don't know. And so now I'm like, cool, I got a bunch of these batteries. These need a thing to go in. I'm going to model this and make a little battery holder. That's actually what's on the printer right now, is battery holders for these batteries. Yesterday, I did battery holders for a different battery. And my point is I'm just finding... Look at this. Okay, here's another example. This is another thing I wanted to talk about. I needed these drives. I got these drives. And I didn't want to pay for the enclosures, so I found a model of the enclosure and started printing enclosures for them. And then I realized I had like 10 of them, so then I modeled and printed a little holder for the drives.
That's wild.
And it's just like, oh yeah, I can make anything. I can make anything. And I know if Josh is listening right now, he's probably rolling his eyes because that's what he did. That's what he does all the time.
Right.
But
I can see.
Go ahead.
I can see that you are excited about that because it solves a problem and it feels so good to make something like that. And that's exactly what your viewers want to see. They want to see you be excited to make something.
Yeah. It's funny. I see you doing the video, it's showing all those things you did, plus come up with 20 more that are seemingly useless but useful. Like,
and it's weird because
make a tray for one spoon.
It feels like it would be a review for those printers, but the fact of the matter is, I like those printers. I'm glad that I have those printers. The fact that those printers just work, the fact that they are invisible in the process, is the reason that I'm excited about being able to make this stuff. Because I don't have to design a tray and then fight with a printer for 5 days to get it to actually do the thing that I want it to do. They just work. I send this to the printer. I sent those battery holders to the printer before I hit record, and I haven't gone in there to look. I can hear it going. I know it's working. I know it's going to be fine. Yeah, you can hear it. Sorry. But I think that's the thing. It's that they're invisible in the process, so it makes the process way more productive or useful or something. I don't know. So I'm trying to figure out how to take that idea and figure out if it needs to be wrapped around a specific item, a tool, or if maybe it's about the idea and not about the tool, and the tool is just a little actor in the story, or that's where I'm at with that. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do it and how to be able to do it in the future. If I come up with another, I stumble across another tool that like I want to talk about, but I don't want to just be like, hey, let's review the new iPhone, whatever. So.
It needs a hook, not only for the viewers, but it needs a hook to make you excited about making the video.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I also wonder if those types of videos for me, if the meat of it, the excitement of it, the thing of it is like a minute or 2 minutes, or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if there's enough there to really tease out into a full
well,
video.
that's that is the challenge of being a YouTuber, is trying to figure out how to turn that minute of excitement into a full video. Because saying you're excited about something doesn't necessarily translate to being excited about something. You have to problem solve, and you have to figure out how to show that excitement in a video.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge. And Jimmy, that tool was $30 some. It was $39.12 for that circular saw.
Right there. Yeah, it was really cheap
For a circular saw.
For a circular saw, and it's well
corded
built.
Corded stuff is very cheap these days. It's like very inexpensive, not necessarily cheap, but
yeah,
inexpensive because nobody's buying it.
Before moving on, I do have a question. My SawStop table saw, it's a 3 horsepower. You turn it on, most of the noise that you hear is the blade spinning and pulling and pushing that air. It's a really quiet machine. When I turn on the tiny little Wen table saw, the benchtop table saw, it is insanely loud. Like, I can't even turn it on. Before I even cut wood, I have to have ear protection on. It's so loud. Why is this benchtop tool so much louder than a 3 horsepower table saw?
That's a good question. And maybe it's dampened quite a bit in all the steel and the weight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's what
sound
I
is
was going to say.
dampened into the ground, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, you have a lot less vibration with a cast iron top and steel base, and all that stuff is just holding it down versus thin metal on thin legs or whatever. It's just all the little parts are shaking. It's like my Land Cruiser. Like the white one is pretty quiet because it's tight. The green one, it sounds like you're driving a box of hammers because everything you touch is just every piece is. Yeah. So.
By the way, do you have your white Land Cruiser back yet?
Let me tell you a story, Jimmy. So, I've tried not to. I know we've talked about it a whole bunch of times.
Yeah. It's
I've
a
tried
character
not
in the
to,
show now.
It is now. Yeah, it's the 4th member. I've tried not to give every little detail about the process because I know it's obnoxious to people who like, oh, yeah, he's talking about his dumb car again that never comes back. Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I think I told you, they had the engine in, it's running, they were driving it around, and they found that it was losing power at like 40. And so they were trying to figure that out. So I let them do that for a while, didn't talk to him for a couple weeks. I called him yesterday. he goes,
You are?
well, we took the head off. I'm like, okay, this brand new engine rebuild, you just took the head off.
Right.
Turns out what he thinks is happening, it's losing power at 40 once it heats up, and it starts smoking at 40.
And they're the engine rebuilders.
No, this is the shop that's putting it in.
But the engine rebuilder is their subcontractor.
Yes. So, and he was like, the guy that built the engine, like, he's really good, and we never have any problems with the stuff that he, so it's possible that there's a problem with the build that on his end, but it's unlikely because he's really good at it.
Oh, so they're setting up blaming the block?
No, they're blaming the head. So he thinks the block is good. He thinks there's probably a crack in the head that when they pressure test it is not visible because it's cold. But then when it heats up, the steel in the head expands, the crack opens, and then moisture gets in. And I don't. After that, he was just like, I don't know, jargony stuff. So he was like, well, we have 2 options. We can either send the whole block, we can pull the engine and send it back to the guy and have him fix it, or we still have your old engine. The head on the old engine was fine. It threw a rod. It didn't mess the head up. So he was like, we can pull the head from the old engine, put it on the new block. Theoretically, if that's the problem, it will be fine. If that's not the problem, then we'll have to pull the whole engine and send it back to him with a new head, which means we'll have to pay for some of that work to be done twice. And so he was basically just like, this thing's a pain in my butt. In the time that I've been working on your engine, I've put like 4 other ones into other vehicles, and I've just, they're moving through. And
how are they, have you given them any money? Are you paying, you just have an auto pay and they take $1,000 every month?
No. I gave them $1,500 at the beginning. This is a year and a half ago.
Right.
I gave them $1,500 as like a down payment, whatever. And he told me it was going to be in the range of, he said, oh, it'll probably be somewhere between like $4,000 and $7,000, depending on how much they have to do to the engine. Most of it is on the
now it's $9,000.
The shop, the machine shop end of things. He didn't know their cost exactly based on the build. He had a pretty good idea of his own labor. And then after a year, I started complaining about it. And he was like, well, yeah, no, we're still waiting. I'll give you a discount on our labor whenever we get it. And then a couple of months ago when I called, I was talking to another guy there, and I said, you know, I'm worried about how much this is going to cost because you guys have had it for a really long time. You're continuing to work on it. It was on a lift for like a month and a half, eating up one of their lifts where they could be working on other cars.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, no. You know, Travis is not going to charge you any more than what he told you up front. And, you know, it's whatever. He reassured me that that would not be an issue. But the fact of the matter is, until I go up and get the keys in my hand, I'm not going to know what they're going to totally charge me for it. So I am scared about that.
As one of the top listeners of this podcast, I every single episode. I've listened to every single one. As one of the top listeners, I want you to call them every Tuesday. So when we record on Wednesday, you can report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Updates. All right. I don't think there'll be that much to report. And to be honest, I've been trying. I mean, the guy's really responsive and stuff, and I don't want to bother him to the point to where he's like, oh, it's this guy again. I'm just not going to tell him anything. Or
he's
like,
already there.
Avoid the phone call. Well, you know, I thought he was there because he is kind of short when he talks. You know, like he's very just like, yeah. But when I was talking to him yesterday, he was like taking his time to explain what the problem was and what he was worried about and what he thought the options were and everything. And he was like, here, I'm going to give you my personal number. If you find anything on the forums or if you put out information for something that I can't find or whatever, please text me links so that he's trying to get the right information. Like
does he really know that you have this outlet?
I don't believe so.
Does he know who you are?
I don't think that would matter. It's not like I'm going to go to YouTube and be like, hey, everybody, don't go to this one shop that's on the corner across from Best Buy in Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
I haven't really been. I guess I do this every once in a while. People who know me that I make YouTube movies and stuff, and I always kind of dabble with the idea of like Ken, for instance, who's my stonemason who's doing the house down the block. Ken absolutely has no interest in being on camera, but once in a while when he sees himself on camera, he gets excited. His daughter, I know his daughter is his assistant. She gets excited. So I don't explicitly say you're going to be on camera, but every once in a while, now he's involved. He'd be like, do you want to film this before I put the stone? I'm like, yeah, actually I do.
Cool.
You know, but like a garage like this, I'd say, hey, I go, you know, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I'm a YouTuber and I got a big channel and I got a big fan base and I want to kind of show the process. And if you guys are okay with me showing the process and filming a little bit, you know, you guys might get in a video that gets 250,000 views. That would tickle their fancy and get them a little, I mean, I would set it up like that. And then another thing, this is a tip to either you or whoever else is listening. Whenever I get into something like, for instance, I did all that road work in the back. That road work in the back was $40,000. I built a road that comes around and connects all the barns. It was $40,000. It was 800,000 pounds of stone to create this road that ended up being like about 200 yards long. And a big open field between the two barns in the back. So it's kind of like you come through my property and it's all overgrown weeds, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in this big open area. And it's off the road. You can't see it. So we did this whole thing. I knew it was going to be expensive. I didn't know how much it was going to be, but I thought it was going to be like $35,000. But because we used so much rock, it ended up going to $40,000. But the reason I bring that up as an example is I gave him 10 to start, and then trucks just kept coming. And then I got nervous. And this took about 3 months. Trucks just kept coming. And I was like, here's another 10.
Right.
Because I don't want to feel the pain later. And then trucks just kept coming. And then I'm like, help, do you want to go to here? And we had a land surveyor map the road so that it had the right curves for drainage and everything. It was done properly. And I gave him another 10 and then a 5. And over the course, so I didn't wait till the end to have to write a big giant check that was going to be painful. thankfully I had the money, and money was coming in this time last year, so I was able to pay for it. But that idea of waiting for the big gut punch always scares me. So I always pay guys as I go. I mean, I can't remember an example where I work with a complete stranger like you're working with, someone that doesn't have any awareness of who you are. And like when I go into AutoZone and stuff like that, these guys see me come in all the time, but they don't know who I am. They think I'm just some idiot New Yorker that bought a farm up here and doesn't know how to start a car, because I'm constantly going in there and buying starter fluid from these guys.
You guys sell gasoline in here?
Yeah, like, you got any more starter fluid? The other day when I bought 10 cans of starter fluid to put in every vehicle that I have, every lawnmower. So every lawnmower, every ride-on mower, every tractor, everything is going to have a can of starter fluid like sitting next to the carburetor. I'm going to tie a string to it. So that, I mean, I kind of tempt it just this way. It's like a Mexican standoff. It's like, you guys could write your own story. You want to make it bad? You're going to make it bad. You want to make it good? You make it good. It's up to you. But come at it with like a fun, it's too late now, but you come at it with like a fun, hey, you guys want to be part of the process? I'm going to show how you guys do this, because I'm learning and I don't know how to fix an engine, and I want to learn. I did
tell him at the beginning that when I thought it was going to be 6 weeks, I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to make a video about this. That's kind of all I said about it. I'm going to make a video, but I was wondering if I could come in and just shoot some of you like putting it in and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, sure, I guess. Like, I don't know, whatever. That's his demeanor. He's like, yeah, sure, you can.
Well, I'll tell you, this reminds me of a funny story.
But then it was like a year and a half later, and I didn't ever do anything.
This reminds me of a very funny story. Albany Steel, who I would go in and buy steel, I never said, hey, because every guy that works there, you see him once, you never see him again. The counter guy, Bob, eventually started being there more often, and he retired. Now there's a new guy. But the counter guy began to know me and Taylor, because we were constantly coming in there and buying steel. And then somebody there recognized my name and started telling everybody I make YouTube videos. But early on, when I used to go there, I had them cut out these letters for me for a Bullet Bourbon sign, the 1/2-inch thick steel. And I said, hey, can I film the process? I make YouTube videos. The guy went, absolutely not. No one's allowed in the back. I was like, can I give you the camera? And you film? No filming at all. And then when the video went up and they saw I was like, oh, I went to this place and they cut the letters. They wouldn't let me see how it was done. They were like, oh wow. Like, they realized what an opportunity they missed. And I didn't badmouth them. I was just like, all right, that's like absolutely, because it's like highly industrial, and plus, they're just old school. They don't understand the power of the internet. They still don't. Their website looks like it was made like, it's, did you ever see the pixelated websites? It looks like that.
Oh yeah.
So they didn't understand the potential. And now a couple of the guys do. So when I call in and make an order, they're like, oh, what are you making? You making something fun? I'm like, yeah. Sometimes the female operators recognize me. But, and I got to know Bob the most, who retired. But the point I'm making is sometimes these people just don't realize the potential. And then, like if you go, I'm making a video, he's like, okay, that's cute. Everyone's got Facebook, like you say, no, I have 5 million followers. I would be like, look, this is my Instagram. This is my, you're not a good bragger, Bob. You got to come live in New York for a minute.
I am absolutely not. I hate doing that. I would rather go in like with the hood on and be like, hey, can you just do this thing for me, please? And I'll pay you for it.
I'll pay you in 6 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I would go in there with my phone open to my thing that accidentally says 2 million followers.
Yes. Wait, hold on. Here. Look at that. That's me. Look at that giant number next to that.
Huh. Yeah, this is my channel, by the way. This is, if you want to be in a video, this is you 2 million? Really? I'm like, yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
It only took me 18 years to
pointing it out
to
you because it's no big deal. Yeah. So I don't know about the car. I don't know. I was telling Jenny yesterday, I hate that I'm over it, but I'm kind of getting over it. Because I really do love that vehicle, and I've been looking forward to it. But at this point, it's been so long that, I haven't driven it in a year and a half. I haven't, I'm beginning to be like, well, what's the point? It's just...
What's annoying is there's somebody in the audience that could take that car and get it running in a weekend, get it perfect. Like I have when I took over Aaron's space, when Aaron passed and I took over his space in my little complex. It's like a little 1,000 square foot garage. And I ended up subletting it to this kid, Silas, who's a Tiny Town Forge. He's an amazing knife maker. He's unbelievable. Young. He's like a little mini Alex Steele. You know, he's probably 21 now. But he started renting the place a few years ago, and he's an amazing, but on top of that, he's an incredible mechanic. He has a little Volvo, and he's always dirty. I go, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I put the other engine in the Volvo tonight. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, it only took me a few hours. He pulls the engine out and puts a new engine in. And then like the other day, they have a Suburban, and him and his friend Mike, I go, what are you doing? Oh, we're gonna take the engine out of this Suburban. We're gonna put it in that pickup truck. I'm like, really? When are you going to do that? I want to watch. He's like, I don't know. We'll probably get to it like 3 a.m. I'm like, probably going to be in bed.
Wow.
But these type of guys exist where to them it's no big deal and it's fun. Mm-hmm. You know, this guy's, you know, obviously making a dollar, but I'm putting it out there because Bob won't ask, because Bob doesn't tell anybody he's got 5 million followers.
I don't have. What are you talking about? I don't have 5 million followers.
How many you got?
I don't know,
400. So I'm just picking on you, Bob. But if there's somebody in the audience that wants to come and rescue Bob's car, some geek engine guy.
See, here's the deal. You have to break into the shop. You have to steal the car that won't drive, and then take it somewhere and fix it.
That's a good video right there. That'll get you 5 million followers right there.
Yeah.
No, I'm just fantasizing. Like, let's say, imagine a scenario where you just buy your car at a hawk. You just buy it back. Whatever. And maybe it runs and it only goes 40 miles an hour. You buy it back. Okay, cool. He gets it. You get a discount because it's not where it's supposed to be. You get it back, and then you make a movie with a fan that would love to fix it just to hang out with you and do it. And just to, you know, that's a fantasy. So this way you don't lose. I'm trying to help you from losing your heart for your favorite car.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, that is a kind of a worry, is that, you know, I really do like this thing. And I've said it before, as much as I've never been a car person, I'm a car person now, and specifically for Land Cruisers. And I don't want to lose that because I enjoy it. And what's funny is that, you know, you're talking about those people that can just like, I'm going to pull an engine and put in a new engine, or I'm going to just replace this giant thing or whatever. I want to be that person. I want to be able to do that. I'm interested enough in car stuff now, knowing that my knowledge level is absolutely like 0.0001, but I want it to be higher. And I regret the fact that I took this thing to somebody else to do. I really wish that I had kept it and spent a year and a half learning how to do the same work myself. But even if it was in the exact same state that it is right now, I would have the knowledge of.
I see. This is a perfect montage. This is a perfect montage in like an 80s movie.
Well, but I can't get that year back. That's not that. You know, it's not like I can montage my way into knowledge.
We start now. You buy the car at a hawk with the 40-mile-an-hour limit. You bring it to somebody who's listening right now, who's like, these guys looking at the radio right now going, that's me, it's me, it's me, it's me.
Oh, I've gotten messages from the guy. I know who you're talking about. Who lives near me. Like,
and then you do the thing where you're like, you know, you hold his belt loop while he pulls the engine out, and you help him, and like, you know, you do like wipe all the lifters off, you know, and he's telling you what to do. I could imagine the montage now.
Yeah.
And then in the end, you drive off in the sunset. Going 43
miles, 39 miles an hour.
42 miles an hour.
So speaking of cars, I spent last week on Thursday, I spent the entire day. I did the body work on the Ghia that I was talking about, doing the video. And I just did body filler and sanding and stuff all day long. And it was such a weird day because I was making a video about the process being a lot of work and very little to show for it. You know what I mean? And so I knew going into it, I'm going to be working really hard all day long, and I'm going to get to the end, and it's going to look like I did absolutely nothing.
You should bring it back to original, unless you're like making it into a fish or something for a parade.
No, I'm bringing, but I mean, yes, it is closer to being done, but visually it looks exactly like it did. It just, you know, the spots of body filler are slightly different shaped or in different places or whatever. Yeah. But it was weird because I worked on, I think my technique got better for applying filler and sanding and stuff like that throughout the day. So it was good. But again, you can't see that. But I worked all day and very little changed, even from like feeling like I had any sections done or close to done or anything. You know, I just didn't get it. And then the last hour, the back quarter panel, there's a big area where there was just tons of stuff, and I hammered a bunch of it out, and I did a whole bunch of work to it. Still wasn't close, so I did body filler. And in the last hour, this big section, like 3 feet wide, went from like just terrible to, hey, like this is almost there. Like I could see the curve was back. Ooh. It wasn't curve with dents. It was, oh, the curve's there now. The compound, the big sweeping, you know, it's not done. It's definitely not sanded well enough yet, but it wasn't terrible. And after a day's worth of work, and that last little bit, all of a sudden feeling like, oh, wait, like this is progress. I can see progress right here. It felt really cool.
Nice.
And oddly enough, gave me more desire to do. I wanted to stay for like into the night and just do more body filler, but I had stuff I had to do.
No,
so
that's cool.
I'm really anxious to get back out there and spend some more days like that of just with the camera off and just move it along and just really push each one of those sections. And I did the thing again where at the end of the day, I went around the entire vehicle with a Sharpie and just everything I saw, just make a tick mark or make a circle around it or whatever. And the number of those things, there's still big areas that have to be done, but the number of little things that I haven't done anything with is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and everything is getting a little bit better and a little bit better, you know. And there were a few sections that are completely done, like small. You're muted, Jimmy.
Your camera's off, Bob, I think.
I see. Nope. I see him.
No, I don't know. My internet's weird these days.
Okay, I can't see you.
But anyway, it's moving along, and there's still a long way to go. But it was actually really gratifying to get some work in. And I want to do more of that stuff, you know, to move it along. So it was cool.
That's good.
Did you even mention what video you're working on next?
I did not. I'm trying to think what that is. Oh, the Give video is the next one that will be out. Actually, yeah. And it's a different type of video because I was doing one thing a bunch of times, so it's like a lot of body filler and a lot of sanding. So I tried to make the video a little different in that it's broken up from like work, talking, but the talking is my wife is in and out of the door over there and it's slamming, so I apologize. But the talking is like I answered questions and then I talked about different things, and so it's a different feel. We also have a different editor for this one, and we have a new editor that we're working with, and so I went to them and said, here's a bunch of footage. We've trained you up on doing project videos, and this is not a project video. So here's a bunch of different types of footage. It's a different tone video. You don't have to follow the guide that we gave you about how videos should be, so be creative. So we'll see how this video turns out. Because, it's kind of like maybe not fair to the editor to give them so much freedom and expect them to do what, something really good. But I'm interested to see how that's going to turn out. So that's the next one. And then after that, right now I'm working on a big light fixture for over our kitchen table. And this has been something I've been wanting to do for a long time. We tried to find, we did the whole kitchen. We have this big long table in there right in front of two big windows, and it's in a corner. And we've been trying to find a light fixture to go there that fits the format of the table but fits in front of windows, and we have not had any luck for a couple of years now. So I finally decided I'm just going to make something, and it's either going to look really awesome or terrible, and I have no idea which. Either way, I'm excited about making it, and I've got it all figured out theoretically. So at this point, it's just a matter of some welding and some electrical and some laser work and stuff. But yeah, I'm a little bit anxious about it because it may just look dumb, but it's a big thing that's going to take a long time. And it's a lot of I don't know. We'll see. So that's what I'm working on. And that puts us at almost an hour talking about.
I thought I was going to have a video this week. I'm not sure. I still have all day today and tomorrow. So I don't know. I might have something, but maybe I probably won't. I got too much on my mind.
Yeah, I think that's forgivable. You know?
Yeah.
You don't have to do videos all the time. And it's getting to that part of the year where, I mean, outside of your situation, that part of the year where, like, I'm ready to wrap stuff up. I'm ready to kind of like, you know, take a Christmas break or something. And the difficult thing about what we do is the best ad revenue of the year is this month. So if we take a break, like we want to take a break, we're kind of missing out, you know?
Yeah.
But
best ad revenue this month, and then next month, and then the following 2 are the worst. So
yeah,
it's always a good time to take advantage of December, but you can only do what you can do.
Taking a break in January actually makes more sense for us, probably. But
The first week of January, I'm going to take a chair class with Greg Pennington.
Ooh.
He's the chair guy that April and Ann have always shown. He's a good dude. I met him one time when I was down in Nashville. And so me and a few guys are going to go down to a chair making class starting on like the 2nd or maybe the 3rd in Nashville for a week. So that should be fun.
You driving or flying?
I think I'm going to fly. Me and Derek's going to come. I think Derek he hasn't confirmed yet, but if Derek comes, I might fly with him out of Boston. And then Patrick is going to be there too. Patrick's going to drive, so Patrick will drive home anything we make. Just because I'd have to leave, and you know, it would add like 3 extra days to the trip. So
I was going to say you could come through here and hang out. But
I mean, if
fine, whatever.
Change,
you know, no big deal. Doesn't hurt my feelings. It's fine.
I'll come help you pull the head.
There you go.
Okay,
there you go.
You can help me steal my car back. That sounds good.
As they're arresting me, I'd be like, "Look, I have 2 million followers. He's got 5.
You can't put me in
know
jail. Haven't you seen my? Don't you know who I am? Yeah, cool. You guys got anything else for this week?
No,
that's it. We were gonna talk about what we're gonna be like when we're old men, but we could do that in a week.
I totally forgot about that.
we actually had a
do that
topic.
next week.
We'll save it.
We did.
Like, how do we picture ourselves as old men? So that'll be next week.
Yeah, and we'll forget next week too.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, let me thank our Patreon supporters. We have a new supporter this week. Nick Ryan jumped on at that top tier. Big thanks to Nick for hopping on and helping out the show. Along with Nick is Corey Ward, Albert's Woodworks, Works by Solo, Chad from Mancrafting, Chad's Custom Creations, Rich at Low End Design, Odin Leather Goods, Sean Beckner, Scott at Dad It Yourself DIY, The New Jakey Workshop, Warren Works, Michael Menedjan, The Web Ranch, Specialties, and Crabtree Creative. But there's a whole bunch of other people. Like, let's see, who haven't I said anything about in a while? Samuel Gable. There's a bunch of people that help us out over on patreon.com/makingit. They all get the after show.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Is more show after this, often secret stuff or other stuff. Jimmy tells us about all of his TV show opportunities, and
there's something brewing. It's very small, but it's brewing. It's very small. I'll tell you about it.
Is it a coffee show? Because that would be a fantastic pun. If
Nope.
no, that's about
Nope.
Anyway, if you want to get the after show,
cars. It's about fixing cars, but they got to only go 40 miles an hour.
Cool.
I got a new idea today.
You can find out about that if you get the after show by going to patreon.com/makingit, and you can help us out. We appreciate it. Or don't. That's cool. That's all right.
Whatevs.
So, yeah, no big deal. You guys got anything to recommend this week?
I'm gonna go with.
I should look for something.
I'm nearly positive I've mentioned him before, but he continues to make great videos where I learn something, and that's Stumpy Nubs. And he just has it's obvious he has a lot of experience in what he does, and he's just got great tips, and I like his angle of approaching videos. So, Stumpy Nubs.
I watch most of Stumpy's stuff. He's good. Yeah. He really digs into the trolls. He has fun with the trolls. He'll make a video and then make a video about the trolls in that video. That's just funny.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he does good with it. I'm going to talk about, there's a great little channel called Speed Bump Garage. This young kid, he's like it probably looks like he's 12 or 15, maybe 13. And his dad owns a junkyard, and his dad this is the video that I saw. It's probably old at this point if you follow him. His dad said you can have any one of those cars out there that you can get started. So he picked an old Ford Ranchero and got it started, and now he's working on that car. Plus, the kid seems to really know exactly everything. He reminds me of Derek Bierry from Vice Grip, because the kid is very smart. He knows how to do everything. He's only like 12 years old, and he's got the confidence of a 50-year-old man. It's amazing. He's really, really entertaining to watch. Check out Speed Bump Garage. And then also Marquez Brownlee's review on the Cybertruck is really good.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's just such a pleasure to watch if you don't watch Marquez Brownlee.
I will never
own all the
own
reviews on everything.
I can't say I'll never. I have no interest in Android phones, but I will watch his reviews on Android phones because he's just so
exactly.
He's so good at what he does.
He really is amazing. He's just like the way he presents. He's just such a pleasure to watch, and the way it's filmed is amazing. It's just like it's like watching a computer talk about a computer, and like.
Except he's got a little bit more personality than a computer.
No, but I mean, he's almost like AI. He presents so
perfectly,
pleasantly. I don't know if that's the right word. I watch him doing reviews, and I'm like, if I had to do that review, I'd be stumbling and stuttering. I'm just saying,
I see what you mean.
And he just knows so much about everything, which is crazy because that's his business. But him reviewing the car is funny. He talks about the seams on the body panels and everything. It's interesting seeing those giant panels on the Cybertruck. He talked a little bit about how they stamp them because the guys at the factory told him they're stainless, so they have to stamp them, over-stamp them, so that when they bounce back to the right shape that they want to stay at. Because if you stamp them to the shape that you think that they're going to stay at, they'll bounce back a little bit because stainless is that type of material. And everything, if you notice, the car has just big, broad, flat panels, whereas a regular car has multiple bends in it. And a multiple bend panel, you stamp it, it stays that way because it has all these angles working against one another. Those big, broad panels on the Cybertruck are just big, long, flat things.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that video is he talks about that spring back, and he's like, there's no way that this can be consistent between vehicle to vehicle. You're probably going to find bigger panel gaps on one than the other. Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to check it out.
I just can't wait. I can't wait to see Whistling Diesel destroy.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So I can't wait.
You know it's coming. Well, so mine is I don't know. It's derivative of last week's. So last week I was talking about the documentary Beckham, which I at the time had only watched the first episode of. We watched the entire thing since then. It's very good. Like, I didn't know a lot about that guy, and I'm pretty impressed with that guy. He has a measured way of talking. You can tell he doesn't talk a whole lot, but he's very careful about what he says. And I mean, it was edited too, so that could have something to do with it. But anyway, it was a really good thing. But then we found that there was also a show on Disney Plus where it's called Save Our Squad. And that's so the recommendation for this week is Save Our Squad. And it's about him going back to the club that he played at when he was at like 10 years old or 11 years old or something like that. And these boys who are, I guess they're probably 12, 13. He's going back to kind of mentor a bunch of young boys in East London. And we've only watched a couple episodes of it so far, but it's really cool seeing somebody who has been wildly successful and has lived a life at that age, decided, I want to play for Manchester United. And then like a couple of years later started playing for Manchester United and then did forever. And then on to this awesome team and this awesome team and played in the World Cup and captained the England team. And, like he just like kept outdoing himself. And it started at this place where somebody invested in him. And so now he's going back and he's investing in these boys. Cool. Yeah. And it's neat to see, it's like a feel good, it's just a good show. And so the place that we're at, my wife and I are at in life is we're surrounded by soccer. We're surrounded by our kids and other kids who are trying to decide how dedicated they want to be to something that they love. Like, is it going to be a thing they do now for a little while, or is it going to be a thing that they really pursue to see how far it can take them? And so it's interesting talking to our kids about work ethic and effort, and when that effort is diminishing. You know, like, you can throw yourself at something really hard, but at some point you have to decide whether it's actually worth that effort, or if that effort should be put in.
You think you got to Beckham in the clan?
Oh, I don't know about that, but I think it's just like with their schooling, you know, if they work hard enough, it can give them opportunities to do other things. And so I think, not that they're necessarily going to be a Beckham, having the work ethic to stay hard at something can give them other opportunities. And so it's interesting talking to them about that stuff, and then seeing a couple of shows that are about somebody really just digging in and working hard at something that they enjoy doing. And it taking a really long time too. This isn't just like, I worked hard this summer and now I have this trophy. You know, this is all about long-term effort and long-term investment. I'm talking about my kids. And so having a couple of these shows show proof of that is, I don't know, it's good. It's good. And it applies to the thing that they're interested in. So it makes a lot of sense. But anyway, go check that out. It's a good show. Both of them are good. You guys got anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Next week we'll talk about being old men.
Well, lots of noises next week.
By next week we'll be old men.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. As I yawn. Love you.